As you've just heard from these readings from the Hebrew Bible, the people at that time were not afraid to let God know exactly how they felt. And so that was a psalm that you heard read, the second reading of lament. And they pour out everything that's wrong. But towards the end, there is a note of hope. Despite everything that's wrong, they go on trusting and they go on hoping, which ties in with our theme of hope today. Today we're going to be looking at a story of a teacher by the name of Alec. Alec closed the door of his classroom after the last of his students has skipped off down the corridor. He slumped heavily into his chair and spread out on his desk a pile of manuscripts, diagrams and text, the makings of the Hillside Primary School nativity play, Jesus, the Baby King. It was the second half of the term, and there were only a few weeks to go. Only a few weeks before the scheduled date for the annual performance. Alec was worried. He'd spent much of the half-term break putting together the script, cobbling together songs and music, including some compositions of his own. And now it looked as if he might have to start all over again. Before half-term, the principal had given him a free hand, although she cautioned him not to make the production too religious. Alec was not a religious person as such, but he did believe that the Christian story, the Christmas story, was an important part of the heritage of a Christian country, and that it had an integrity of its own. His productions over the years had never strayed far from the essential elements as written in the Bible. Young children, he knew, needed to feel included, so there were always extra roles, and he would create more angels and shepherds. And it always helped if the wise men could each have a camel to bed down with the ox, the ass, and a whole flock of sheep. But today something had changed. And sitting in the staff room at lunchtime, he had listened as each teacher had made his or her contribution to a discussion about the production. Alec had led off, shuffling his papers enthusiastically and rendering bits of his newfound songs to a seemingly indifferent audience. From behind the bite of a big green apple or over the top of a yogurt pot, observations were offered. "I think you should cut out all that nasty Herod stuff, Alec," suggested the teacher with special responsibility for child protection. And then Miss Smith, who held responsibility for multi-faith awareness, suggested that the festival of Diwali could somehow be incorporated so as to include the 2 Hindu girls in grade 4. And one of the other teachers present, by the name of Carol, rolled about in her chair, tucking one foot under her bottom in a gesture to show growing enthusiasm for the subject, and suggested that how about the part of Jesus could be played by a helium-filled balloon wrapped in a shawl, which once released could majestically go up towards the ceiling. Straight from incarnation to ascension, she quipped, cutting out all that nasty business in between. Carol had done a course on theology for children. Well, laughter followed that remark and was only cut short by the arrival at the staff room by a pupil who was red-faced, offering a note from his mum asking him to be excused for a dental appointment. The afternoon had been a real effort for Alec. He was trying to help his class with some craft work to back up a topic about Tudor England. But the lunchtime discussion weighed heavily upon him. And Tudor life, as you all know, was characterized by so many kings and queens, and the students were discussing what it meant to be a king when one of them spotted the title of the teacher's manuscript, Jesus, the Baby King, and wanted to know how a baby could rule the country. She asked, "What kind of king is Jesus?" And Katie never spoke unless followed by her best friend Jenny, who added, "And which country does he rule over?" Well, thankfully the school bell rang and the whole class spontaneously reenacted the Exodus as if being chased by Pharaoh and all his armies. Alec still heard the questions in his head. Perhaps for the first time he really asked himself, what was the Nativity all about? And he was still sitting at his desk a little before 6 o'clock that evening. The banter at lunchtime, Katie and Jenny's honest questions had really challenged him. Alec might well have replied to Katie, "I don't know. It's a mystery." Katie may not have been satisfied with that answer, but essentially it would have been the truth. Our first Advent observation is that of mystery. How so much of what is reflected upon by believers and non-believers too is beyond our current understanding. People in general are hungry for knowledge and understanding. If they were not, we would not enjoy such a sophisticated lifestyle. Without hunger for knowledge, inventors and scientists may not have been driven to bring us such things as electric light or penicillin. We want to know more. We want to know all. The mystery of God revealed to us in the life and teachings of Jesus is brought to us through the stories, the myths and the legends that have been handed down. They tell us a story of one whose birth was surrounded by strange events. There was the star in the east, the host of angels. There were the 3 wise men who came to pay homage, and all the small details without which no nativity play is complete. And yet the story is complete without the addition of other characters. And just because it is a mystery, there's no need for us to try and fill in the gaps in our understanding by adding significantly to it. Alec, our teacher, had to find character parts to keep 60 children happy, and he needed to make the story accessible for 21st century children and parents. He would do this without adding anything to the mystery of the story and without taking anything away from it. And so it is then that we approach Advent and the mystery of the coming of Christ, not with an intention of trying to unravel it, to see how it was made, but in a spirit of holding the mystery lightly in the palm of our hand. We might, however, turn it round a little bit to see what it looks like from a number of angles, without an expectation of beholding it more wondrously and of letting its meaning touch us at a different level. Essentially, Alec, the teacher's role, is that of steward. He is, as we all are, a steward of the mysteries of God. A steward is a trustworthy servant who looks after things, takes care of them. And in considering the many and varied ideas thrown at him by his colleagues in the staff room, Alec was attempting to hold on to a truth as he knew it and be a good steward of it. Gross distortion of the Nativity would not have been acceptable to him, although he may not have been able to tell you why. The Nativity story had been part of Alec's life journey, part of his culture, and he was troubled because he was being challenged at a deeper level. Reflecting on the mystery of the coming of the Christ child is an Advent occupation. Considering it at a new level or from a different angle is part of the experience. It is not in the understanding of the mystery that we draw closer to God. It is in holding the mystery afresh that our lives are enriched and our relationship with Him is developed. Oh, is the great word of Advent. If we use no other in our prayers, we would have prayed so much. The great O's, the great Advent antiphons are a gift to us from our Christian heritage. Each antiphon begins with an O. It is the O of aspiration and longing. It is the O of the stewards of the mysteries of God. The hymn, O come, Emmanuel, is based on these ancient antiphons, and we might do worse than to stay with it for as long as we can in Advent, allowing our prayers to be distilled down into a single O, or even a sigh from deep within us. It will be a sigh of longing and yearning. It is the root of Alec's deep sigh as he longs to be rescued from his dilemma. And so we begin Advent with Teacher Alec as we ponder on what it is that we celebrate at this time and how it relates to the kingship of the babe of Bethlehem. We ponder on the child who grew into the man Jesus, who died and yet continues to inspire us and lives in our hearts forever. The followers of Jesus, both then and now, continued to experience Jesus as a living reality, even after his death. And in Advent, we ponder this mystery afresh in each of our lives, and in so doing, our lives are enriched.